Is it okay that my boyfriend is trying to convince me to let him do the dirty with my cousin? My boyfriend used to be my sneaky link before we made it official. At the beginning, neither of us wanted a relationship, but the more we kept hooking up, the more we wanted to be with each other. So naturally, we hung out all the time and he asked me to be his girlfriend. And of course, I really wanted him to ask me, but I would never bring it up myself. So when he finally did, I said yes. But here's the thing. My boyfriend asked me if we could have an open relationship when we started. At first I said no, but then I thought about it some more. If he wants to see other girls and cheat on me, he will. And because of the way we started, I knew what he was like. So I thought to myself, it's probably better to just have an open relationship than to be wondering if he's cheating on me. So after a few weeks of me asking him, I said yes. But I laid down some rules. If he was gonna hook up with somebody else, he needed to tell me. He kept telling me that it was better to just not talk about it, but I told him I wanted to know the truth. A few months into the relationship, everything was fine. According to him, he was not hooking up with anybody. And I know that I wasn't either, even though the option was there if we both wanted to. This is around the time that my cousin came home to visit from college. Growing up, everyone thought that her and I were identical twins. We really do look so much alike. We both have the same exact body type, really similar features. We both have long black hair, and we even dress the same. So it's natural that people thought we were sisters. I told my cousin about my boyfriend and she wanted to meet him. So I had a dinner at my place. As soon as my boyfriend saw her, he basically started drooling. It made me so angry, but I had to keep my cool. Throughout the dinner, my boyfriend kept complimenting her. He talked about how much her and I looked alike and how it would be any guy's fantasy to watch us do it. My cousin was super uncomfortable, so I asked him to stop doing that. Part 2 is is it okay that my boyfriend is trying to convince me to let him do the dirty with my cousin? Because we have an open relationship, he feels like he can do certain things in front of me. For example, like flirting with other women in front of me. While we were having dinner with my cousin who was visiting, he kept making comments about how hot she was and how her and I look exactly like twins. My cousin was clearly super uncomfortable, so I asked him to stop, which he did. That's when my boyfriend dragged me into our bedroom and asked me if he could do it with her. I said absolutely not. One of the rules in our open relationship is that we can't choose anybody we already know. He told me that he technically did not know my cousin. I told him family was off limits. He asked me to think about it. I drove my cousin home and that's when she told me that my boyfriend was really hot. And I was shocked. I thought she was uncomfortable at dinner. I pulled the car over and asked her if she was interested in him. That's when she said she overheard our conversation. Yep, she heard when my boyfriend was asking me if he could do it with her. She started to laugh and told me that it was okay and that she wouldn't tell my parents. Then she told me that an open relationship is always a bad idea and that nothing good will come of it. I asked her again if she was interested in him and she said maybe. She says, you should just let us do it. Part 3 is up. Is it okay that my boyfriend is trying to convince me to let him hook up with my cousin? That's when my cousin tells me you should just let us do it. I looked over at her and I said, are you crazy? And she said, if you guys already have an open relationship, what's the difference? I told her I wasn't going to be comfortable with her and my boyfriend doing it, and that she needed to get that idea out of her head. Then she started trying to do reverse psychology on me. She said if I didn't let them do it, that he was going to eventually resent me, and that he would see me as the bad guy, and that he'd probably start looking for other girls. I could not believe that my own cousin was trying to do that to me. I started to cry and I asked her if she loved me at all. She then hugged me and says, of course I love you. This is the best thing for your relationship. Part of me started to actually believe what she was saying. I thought maybe he will resent me if I don't let them do it. After that, I didn't talk to my cousin for a few days. During that time, all my boyfriend did was ask me if he could see her again. I made the mistake of telling him that my cousin was down, and then he started pushing even more. He promised me he would only do it with her once, and that nothing would change between him and I. Here's the other thing. There's a guy who's always asked me out on dates, but I always say no. He contacted me and told me that he was finally single and that he really wants to see me. I told my boyfriend that if he was going to do it with my cousin, then I could do it with this guy. That's when my boyfriend said no because I had feelings for this guy. He's arguing that he has no feelings for my cousin, and that if I do it with this other guy, it would be like cheating because I do have feelings for him, which is true. I don't know what to do, and I am so confused. I could just go behind my boyfriend's back, but part of me feels guilty. What should I do? I confessed to my boyfriend that I'm cheating on him with his dad. My boyfriend and I have been dating for 3 years. I have to admit, our relationship is pretty boring. He's not the most fun guy, and he doesn't really ever make me laugh a lot. On the other hand, I'm always making him laugh. I put all those things aside because he is a very good person, and he does take care of me. His job requires him to be away from work for 6 to 8 months. He works on a boat, so this means I have a lot of time to myself. No, I never cheated on him before his dad came along, but let me explain. My boyfriend did not grow up with his dad. His dad went to prison a long time ago for something he stole. No, it wasn't something terrible. When his dad got out of prison, my boyfriend was already 20 years old. My boyfriend didn't like the idea of his dad coming to live with him and his mom, so they had a lot of fights. But his dad made every effort to try to make his son comfortable. The first time I met my dad's boyfriend, I noticed that he was very good looking. He was also in amazing shape. He loves to read books and listen to music, and he even started his own business as soon as he got out of prison, which is already doing well. He told my boyfriend to quit his job and to work for him, but my boyfriend refused. So my boyfriend had to go away for his job, which meant he was going to be away for 6 months. During this time, I decided to visit his mom as much as I could so that she wouldn't get lonely. And this is when things started heating up with his dad. Part 2 is up. I confessed to my boyfriend that I'm cheating on him with his dad. When my boyfriend left for work for 6 months, I started going to visit his mom and his dad every single week. His mom and dad were still married, but they were not together. So it's not like the dad had to be loyal to the mom. My boyfriend's mom would usually cook dinner, I would eat with her, and then I would sit down to watch a movie with her sometimes. His dad would sometimes join us, but not all the time. Like I mentioned, my boyfriend's dad is very good looking. He caught me staring at him a few times. And I'll admit, I was really embarrassed, but at the same time, I kind of didn't care. One night when I was watching a movie with her, she told me that she was going to go to bed. I told her I would go home, but then she said no. She told me I should stay to finish watching the movie. That's when my boyfriend's dad comes over and sits on the couch with me. And he says, I'll keep you company. As we were watching the movie, I could feel the tension. And I loved it. I hadn't felt anything like this in the whole time that I was with my boyfriend. I mean, my boyfriend and I rarely even kissed. When the movie finished, I got up and turned the television off. He also gets up from the couch. That's when he grabbed my hand and turned me around. He grabbed my face and started kissing me. And I have to admit, I loved it. He pulled me into a corner and we kept kissing for a few minutes. That's when he asked me if I wanted to go upstairs with him and I said yes. And we did it. And it was actually amazing. Yes, I did feel guilty, but I wanted to live my life and enjoy these moments. And unfortunately, my boyfriend just didn't give that to me. We were inseparable after that. Part 3 is up. Should I confess to my boyfriend that I'm cheating on him with his dad? After we did the you know what, my boyfriend's dad and I were inseparable. He would come over to my apartment almost every single night and just sleep over. And this became a routine. It's like we couldn't keep our hands off each other and we loved it. And not once did we ever talk about my boyfriend, his son. This went on the entire time my boyfriend was gone. A few days before my boyfriend arrived, his dad and I decided that we would just try to stay away from each other when he was home. Well, let me tell you, it didn't last very long. My boyfriend came home and I felt nothing. It was just like before he left. He barely even kissed me and we went back to our regular life. So I called his dad up and we started meeting in different fancy hotels around the city. It was so fun and exciting. After a few weeks, I noticed that my boyfriend really changed. He was barely touching me and didn't really want anything to do with me. So I confronted him. And I know I have no right, but I wanted to find out what was going on. My boyfriend told me that he felt our relationship was stale, and I told him that I agreed. That's when he told me that we should separate. But we're technically still together. Now here's my problem. I think I just want to break up with my boyfriend, but I want to get with his dad, as in make it official. But his dad told me that he would never make it official with me. So now I'm stuck. I really like him and I have so much fun with him. Also, should I just tell my boyfriend the truth? What do you guys think I should do?
Story time on how I caught my 76-year-old grandpa sleeping with my 14-year-old daughter. Okay, so boom, let's jump right into it. So one day my grandpa came over to see my family. My husband was at work, so it was only me and my daughter. My daughter is 14, my grandpa is 76, and I'm 39. After my grandpa visited, the next day he came back to take my daughter out to eat. They left at 5 p.m. and came back at 12 a.m. And when they came back home, my daughter wanted my grandpa to go in the room with her. So he went upstairs with her, and naturally I found that very suspicious. Cause I mean, like, that's weird. My grandpa slept over that night, and the next day I asked them if they wanted to come visit my best friend with me. Both my grandpa and my daughter said no, but while they were in the kitchen, I put a camera in her room and in the living room. I left, and not even 10 minutes went by, and I saw everything. Like and follow for part 2 on how I caught my 76-year-old grandpa sleeping with my 14-year-old daughter. Okay, so boom, like I said, I got suspicious and I put a camera in my daughter's room and in my living room. I left, and in less than 10 minutes, I look at the cameras and I saw everything. I quickly drove back home, and I was speeding, child. While I was driving back, I screenshotted the camera of my grandpa on top of my daughter while they were both naked. I busted down my house door and I heard moaning. I ran into the room and I kicked my grandpa in the nuts. And I beat my daughter ass. I called her dad, who came less than 5 minutes after me. While my husband handled my grandpa, I sat with my daughter and she told me that he was taking advantage of her. That he forced himself on her. She's now in therapy and he's in jail. Watch out for pervy. Story time on how I caught my pastor trying to sleep with his dog. Okay, so boom, let's jump right into it. So my family is very religious and we go to church every single Sunday. We also go to church every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. As you can imagine, since we're there 24/7, my parents have a great relationship with our pastor. He invites us over all the time, and my mom even cooks for him since he has no wife and kids, but he has a dog. Well, one day my mom cooked for him and told me to go drop it off to surprise him with his favorite dish. I casually go over there, as I've done many times before, and I knock on the door, but he didn't answer. I see his car out front, so I know he's here, so I tried going to the back of the house. He has a window in his room where he would be able to see me. I went to the back of the house so I can get his attention to open the door and give him the food. When I looked into that window, my soul left. Like for part 2. Part 2 on how I caught my pastor trying to sleep with his dog. Okay, so boom, like I said, I go to the back of his house where I know I could get his attention. A window in the back that shows right into his room. I maybe overstepped my boundaries by going to the back of his house, but I was excited to give him this food that my mom cooked for him because again, this was his favorite dish. Well, when I got to his window and started knocking on it, my pastor was completely naked. But oh no, not just that. His dog was on the bed and he was actively trying to put his hot dog in the bun. I just couldn't believe it and I ran back home. I didn't even want him to know that I seen that. I just told my mom he wasn't home and she should just drop it off later, and I just ran to my room. Now he gives me nothing but the creeps, but I haven't told anyone. Should I say something or should I turn a blind eye?